welcome to this week's episode of Picking and Putting. I'm here in the corporate attic. Got Liberty Bill in the South Charlotte Cubs Studios, White Sox, whatever you want to call them. Probably should call them White Sox Studios since we have a AAA farm club.
Yeah, the Cubs suck. Oh, it looks like you're in Harbor Town. I'm doing, you know what I did yesterday for the first time in 14 months?
No.
I got a professional haircut. And I've decided that I'm firing my wife as barber. She has enough on her plate, and this is clearly a lot better. So I'm back to great clips. You're welcome,
and
great
you know
clips.
What? Sometimes it just feels good the way they do it.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. With all, she did a great job for an amateur, but they are the professionals.
Yeah, okay. Well, so you got my shout out's easy. I just got a shout out to Japan and Hideki Matsuyama. That was great.
Oh man, and the caddy. That should be a new tradition. The bow.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
And the first guy to play there was Jumbo Ozaki back in like '73, and then you had some other Japanese great Asian players since. But this is really cool. That country's golf crazy, so and they don't have any land, so they don't have any golf courses. So that's really cool. Well, who'd you want to shout out?
Jackie Robinson. Yesterday,
yeah.
April 15th, was the first day that he played first base for the Brooklyn Dodgers, breaking the color barrier. Major League Baseball does a great job honoring him every year. All the players wear 42. And somewhat related, for the first time ever, Major League Baseball is going to have Lou Gehrig Day coming up in June to benefit ALS. Be very similar to Jackie Robinson Day.
That's a good idea.
Yep.
Well, yeah, when it 1947 or something?
1947. You got that right.
There you go, baby.
Off the top of your head.
Right off the top of my head. Well, the thing about that, I brought this up the other day to a friend. Did you know, I mean, the Major League Sports, like Major League Baseball, that's a great thing to do that for ALS, because the leading contributor to charitable causes are the people who swing at the little white ball behind us.
Yeah.
Professional golf gives much more money to charitable causes in the NFL, MLB, MLS, NHL.
Because it's every week. Yep.
Yeah. And
it seems to be very focused locally too,
right.
In terms of,
which
is also cool.
Right. Going back to the people in Tucson and San Antonio, where they're run by the tournament's run by a local charity. I mean, I think Phoenix was run by some club, the men's club.
Well, then they have the Thunderbirds that oversee it all. But yeah, it all gets back to charity. And you know what's going to get even more money for charity is that little sports book they're building on site at TPC Scottsdale.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy. Yeah, and they're doing it. They're preparing to open it the year 2022 is when they have the Super Bowl. Phil will be on a plane over to the stadium from the last time they had it there. He got on a helicopter after he finished his round and went over to Northwest.
Well, it's Glendale. It's pretty far, and their traffic is terrible.
Right.
So.
Well, that's what I said. He took a helicopter. Well, today we thought we'd talk about a couple things. Obviously, the Heritage Golf Classic's going on this week, and we also thought we'd talk about Hootie and the Blowfish, which is our musical story about this. And Darius Rucker and his buddies were University of South Carolina students in the mid '80s, and he's from Columbia. He always has done a lot for golf and charity in the Carolinas. But what's funny is, so their band was formed in '86, and I get the names right. It was Darius Rucker, Mark Bryan, Dion Felber, and Jim Sonefeld. And they got together in '86. And what it was is Mark Bryan was going into the dorm shower, and he heard Rucker in the shower singing, and he was a guitar player. And he said, "God, that guy's really good. We should make a band." So they formed a band called the Wolf Brothers. Okay. Now I don't know when sooner or later I got it somewhere where they changed to I guess it was 1986 that they changed to Hootie and the Blowfish. But they came along and they had their first big album was called Crack Rear View.
Oh yeah, one of my first CDs that I had as a kid.
Really? It came out in 94.
Yep.
It was the 19th best US album, and it went platinum 21 times. So that was a big one. Then, he had a period where they toured and played, and then he went solo in 2008. But the interesting thing about all these bands, they didn't break up because they didn't break up. They didn't hate each other. There was none of that. So they took a hiatus, and he went out solo country crossover stuff till 2019. But what makes them fun is they're all avid golfers, all of them. And down here, what ties him into this week, besides South Carolina and Hilton Head, is the Masters. Every Monday after the Masters, he has a charity event, and it's called, I want to get it right, it's called Monday After the Masters Pro-Am Charity Event. Pretty complicated there, Rick. And it's usually in Myrtle Beach, and they raise a whole bunch of money. And so the point to what I was saying is, even when they were apart from 2008 to 2019, they kept playing charitable concerts to raise money. Oh, they raised money for the USO and animal shelters, you name it. They did it across Carolinas. So anyways, that's pretty cool. And I don't know if they had it this last week. I guess
I think they did. And they had a menu similar to what the Masters had. They kind of throw in bits and pieces of flair from the Masters to help the transition for the guys. I saw some pictures of it. It looked like a really fun event.
Yeah, I think it's in North Myrtle Beach. There's a whole bunch of Pete Dye courses there and stuff. There's a resort there called Barefoot and that. It's really neat place. If you people haven't gone there, go to North Myrtle Beach if you're a golfer. It's got everything. But there were a couple other things. One was, remember the song I Only Want to Be With You?
Oh yes, and the music video featuring Dan Marino and Chris Berman, among others, and Stuart Scott, I believe.
Yeah, you stole my thing. Oh man, yeah, Dan Marino was on the music video, and they had to do an out of court settlement because the lyrics were, I guess, borrowed from some Bob Dylan song. So they made a deal. I didn't know that. They made a deal with Bob Dylan, whatever. I mean, it obviously wasn't something horribly bad, but that's the way it came. Yeah, the other thing about them that made them cool was, God, you stole that. I can't believe that. Well, that was really about it, I guess. I think my favorite part was the part about, oh yeah, one more thing. Yeah, God, how could I forget that?
I won't steal this one.
Well, this one.
No, I don't think so.
Well, okay. So who is Hootie?
Ah, yeah. See, I don't know that one.
Yeah. So everybody would say, you'd ask 100 people out of 100. It's kind of like Dave Loggins writing the Masters song instead of Kenny. Well, if you ask 100 people, who is Hootie? They're going to say Darius Rucker. And he's not Hootie. That's just the name of the band they came up with. Okay. Hootie was a conjunction of two college friends of Mark Bryan, his original guy who heard him in the shower. They came up. I don't know whether one's name was Hoot and the other guy was Pete. I don't know, but they came up with Hootie. We'll have to ask him if we ever get him on the show.
Yeah, and hopefully we can go see a Hootie and the Blowfish concert, because that's a band where 3 generations, you and then the parents and the grandchildren, everybody could enjoy, put a blanket out on the lawn and just rock out to some Hootie.
Well, that's like Margaritaville, dude. He's good forever. Or Grateful Dead did the same thing. They played forever. Because people just keep coming back. Throw out a blanket and serve some beer and margaritas, and you're ready to go. Yeah, and his music is such a crossover, so it's a lot of fun.
It's just fun.
Yeah,
fun music.
Well, you said you had a couple baseball tips you wanted to throw in there. What were the tidbits?
Yeah. So did you know that we're going to have a new independent team here in the Charlotte area playing in Gastonia this summer? The Gastonia Honey Hunters.
Really? And are they double A, single A?
They're part of this Atlantic League, which
Oh,
they refer to as independent, but
yeah.
it's owned by Major League Baseball, and it's essentially Major League Baseball's testing ground.
Yeah,
So
I know. They're going to move the pitcher's mound 1 foot 6 inches.
they're going to move it back 1 foot for the second half of the year. And my first question to you, with your medical background, everyone, these pitchers are crazy freaks of habit, a lot like golfers. So their first reaction is, oh no, we're going to get injured. So I'm curious what you really think the injury risk is by moving that bump back 1 foot.
Hell, I'd be more worried as it's been with the batters, when they're throwing 100-mile-an-hour balls at your head. But
thank you. And the other point they made when they did the research is there's no consistency where catchers line up. So without even knowing it, pitchers might be throwing a foot or two different based on where the catcher is relative to the plate. So to act like moving the mound is going to have an impact when catchers are already lining up all over the place is total BS.
yeah,
So,
that's a total, yeah, unless you force the catcher to stay in the catcher's box,
yeah.
like you do with the batter. Well, the thing that would be interesting would be to watch them throw off speed stuff, whether 1 foot makes a difference in trying to throw a curve or a splitter or whatever. It might, I don't know. I on the injury part of it,
that's been a bit of a red herring to me all these years. The injury, no, we're going to get hurt 60 feet, 6 inches. Like, look at every other sport. The dimensions have changed. Basketball introduced a 3-point line, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I don't think it'll. I don't want them to. I don't want them to extend the baseline 6 feet just because the guys are faster or something.
Now that what they might do is make the bases bigger.
Well, they talked about that, making the bases bigger. And if they want to, in a lot of these stadiums, they could take out the first 2 rows and move the wall back 15 feet and do that. And, obviously they're messing with the ball this year. So who the heck knows with that?
Yeah, we'll save that one. But I'm glad to hear you don't hear any medical concerns with moving the mound back. And then the other thing that they're going to do is this concept called the double hook.
Yeah.
So this would be the designated hitter is in both leagues. But once you pull your starting pitcher, you lose the designated hitter. So if you bring in a relief pitcher, he's now scheduled to bat where you had the designated hitter bat, and you have to pinch hit for him. So it does a couple of things. It brings back the importance of the starting pitcher. I'm sure you remember as a kid, and as a kid, you go to the game, it's about who's the starting pitcher. Last year, Bob Gibson, right down for the first time ever last year, starting pitchers averaged 14 outs. There's 27 outs in a baseball game. That's about half.
Right.
So that'll fix that. And then it still keeps the strategy that everyone in the National League loves of what do? Do you pinch hit? And then it kind of brings back that role where you have guys on the bench dedicated to pinch hitting. So Theo Epstein's fingerprints are all over this. And I loved the PR campaign that he's launched, where he's really pointing out, hey, the catchers are lining up all over the place. And this double hook rule is a best of both. It has the designated hitter from the American League, but also the strategy from the National League. So we'll have to go up this summer to Gastonia to see both of these rules in action.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I am, as a child of the 60s, if you take Koufax and Gibson and you went to the World Series, you knew you were going to win 3 games. The first game, 4th game, 7th game. So if you were opposing the Cardinals or the Dodgers, you better get ahead of them, because if you went to game 7, you were going to lose. It was just the way it was, so.
Oh, and then the baseball, real quick, the Major League Baseball was trying to deaden the baseball. So the early return, they don't realize, well, I guess they realize, but there are astrophysicists that get their hands on these balls and actually study them and then report it. So they were trying to deaden the ball. The early returns are the ball is dragging more in the air. So it's not flying as far when it's in the air. However, because they've reduced the weight of it, the exit velocity off the bat is up. So it's going to get to the same place. It might not fly as far, but it's coming off the bat harder.
Okay. So let me go with that one back to golf. So yesterday, it was awesome. I'm not playing well anymore, but I spent an hour and a half. They lined it up. It was free. And with a young Titleist rep, and it was a golf ball fitting. Okay. Now here's where this flies into the baseball. Baseball is just looking over to the IT people in golf because, they mess with the dimples, the thickness of the cover, the paint,
the
everything.
Coefficient of restitution.
So what he did with me, I didn't know Titleist has about 6 different brands of balls, but most people play what's called a Pro V1 or a Pro V1X. Okay. And the difference is their spin characteristics.
Yep.
And so I'm not some, great golfer. So, and I was hitting a lot of bad shots, but what he would do is when I'd hit a good one, and he had a launch monitor behind me, and then he'd say, okay, you hit it. So here's how it works. The RPMs, the reverse spin on a golf ball, match the club you're hitting. In other words, if you're hitting a 7-iron, it had 7,000 RPMs of spin, 8-iron, 8,000. Driver's supposed to be under 3,000. That's just those numbers. So you hit it, and he can tell you how high it goes, and then what the level of drop, what angle it comes down. So I would hit a 7-iron, it would reach X peak height and drop at 45 degrees. And he says, and your spin rate with that 7-iron was 7,300. That's perfect. He says, that's what it should be. So the difference though, between the two balls was which one feels better to you, sir? And I go, well, I guess this one. And there was generally, when he made you think about it, you could feel a difference. One felt harder because then he took me over and he had me chip with him and said, which one feels better? Well, I said that this one. He said, well, that's the one you've been playing with. That's totally by accident. But point being is the X would hit, and it had, the X is like for a really good golfer, okay, or pro. And it has more spin characteristics. So it would hit that height, drop down, and stop. Okay. And the 1 might run out a distance of 6 feet farther. He says, that's the difference for you. If you were playing very well and hitting the ball perfect, this one would roll 6 feet farther.
Wow.
Now, if it means a lot for you to hold it on the green and be that 6 feet, then you would go to an X. If you feel good with this and the little rollout doesn't bother you, then you stick with this one. But he showed me.
6 feet.
Yeah, he could show me on the thing, and it was just, so that's what they're doing with baseball. I mean, all they got to do is look at what you just said. You were just talking like a golf ball. What are the spin characteristics of the baseball? What's the launch angle off the bat?
Yep.
So what is the speed that the guy swings the bat? Is he swinging it? I don't know what an average speed is. Is it 20 miles an hour? I don't know. A golf club, the ball comes off a golf club at like 145 miles an hour.
Coming off a baseball bat on average, it's in the 90s.
Yeah, that I got to say that because, come to think of it, I mean, a golf club, the average golfer swings in the 90s. Tiger Woods swings at 120 miles an hour, or a Tiger
Bryson's
Woods.
Like 200.
Yeah, he's trying to swing 140.
Yeah.
So his deal was he wants a ball speed of 200 that carries 350. So it's all physics, like you said, and then they build in the weight of the ball and all this. And so that translates to all sports.
It does.
So then we got into this conversation about I players I miss, like at this thing. I love Ricky Fowler, and I just love to see him come back. And I said, I don't know if it's because he got married, life changes, they get other responsibilities, he's doing some great commercials, but his golf's falling off. And he said, well, the minute his golf fell off was when he changed equipment. I said, what equipment did he change? He said he changed his ball. I said, you really think? He says, well, think about it. The ball is involved in every shot in golf. So if you're not happy with the feel or the way the ball works, and of course he's the representative for.
Yeah. Did he change away from Titleist?
Yes.
That's a hell of a sales pitch.
Yeah, I know. I said, well, but I will say this. I have seen guys make switches for equipment and they disappear, and they do it because.
Well, and Matsuyama changed his putter recently a couple of weeks ago, and look how that worked out.
Well, hell, they do that all the time. Arnold Palmer had a closet full of about 20,000 putters. And he said, if it isn't talking to me, I'm not using it, So, and he'd go back and pull out a putter that was 30 years old and then win a tournament. So, I don't know. But anyways, the equipment stuff. So I thought that was, the golf
it's fascinating.
ball. Here's the golf ball one. You know those pink golf balls, Volvics?
Yeah, the Volvics. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, you remember when they were getting on the market and everybody, they got Bubba to sign a contract, and he did the Volvic, and they paid him millions of dollars, I'm sure. But he only played him for 1 year and then went right back to I don't know who he plays, maybe whether he plays Titleist or what he plays. I think he plays Titleist. But he went right back to he does Titleist, because you've seen those ads where they have him go, they go through all the guys and say, this is the ball I play, this is the ball I play, and then they go to Bubba, and Bubba goes, and I know. That's all he says. And I know. So.
And speaking of golf balls, did you see that Gary Player's son Wayne has been banned from the Masters for life because of his guerrilla marketing for my friends at Encore Golf? And I feel bad for my friends at Encore Golf. They actually had to release a press release last week saying we didn't tell this idiot to do that. Like, we didn't mean to disparage that fine moment with Lee Elder. I didn't realize Wayne Player apparently had written a false check a couple years ago. He seems like a guy who needs to kind of get away from the spotlight.
Well, I did. Yeah, his brother even chided him a little bit on the internet. I
mean, I thought it was funny.
Well, I would
not like they were at a funeral.
I wouldn't have noticed it until in retrospect when somebody pointed out, because I'm not looking at that.
And the other thing, Lee Elder is wearing a sponsored hat and a sponsored polo. It wasn't a funeral, okay?
Oh yeah, I mean that part of it is kind of crazy. I think, but with Augusta National, you have to, as a sponsor, an equipment sponsor and stuff, you have to tread lightly. I mean, they can block you, like Gary McCord's blocked. He was blocked from the television for bikini waxing the green. So if they can cut Gary off, I mean, whatever.
They got all the power.
Yeah, and he's my lookalike. I ever tell you my Gary McCord story? If you ever listen to this, Gary, you'll like this. So, with my mustache and the hair and stuff, whatever. And I was walking through the Charlotte airport, and this is a long time ago. This is when the tournament first started, and somebody said, look, that's Gary McCord. And I'm going, I'm not Gary McCord. Yeah, right. You're not Gary McCord. Finally, the only way to get the son of a bitch to go away from, excuse my language, was I signed an autograph. Signed Gary McCord. Whatever. The guy, as far as he's concerned, he got Gary McCord. So you couldn't have read it if you wanted to. So.
He probably sold it on eBay.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that brought in big bucks, but he might have sold it.
That is great.
Yeah. Well, who your picks? Or I kind of didn't. I had some picks this week, and then it's kind of we'd already played around, but.
Well, Lucas Glover was my upset pick, and he's tied for 11th, but his putter was really carrying him. So I don't know how sustainable that is. And I predicted Webb to repeat. He's 1 under right now, or 1 over, and the cut's supposed to be 1 under. So him and Terrell Hatton, both of my picks, I'm a little worried they might not make the cut.
Yeah, I think the cut's going to be 140, which is 2 under. Could be 1 under.
Yeah,
you're right. Webb came in and shot 72.
Yesterday he shot 71, but
okay, he's even.
Today he's 1 over.
Oh, he's out on the course now.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of the ones I had written down HB3. That's a local one that but Harold's up there.
Yeah, he's up there, tied for 6th.
And I'm still my guy that I keep sticking. Well, I had Webb written down and Cantlay. Cantlay hadn't made a cut since California, but the ones in my heart of hearts that I was really pulling for were Connors. He's Canada, baby.
Oh, he's firing a -2 so far today. He's all the way up, tied for 3rd.
Okay, and Camilo, Villegas. I anything he does.
It's a great story.
Yeah, anything he does is a positive. all about him having. I don't know if he's gotten his card back, but he's playing well enough. I suspect he'll earn enough money to. He's just got to be back in the top 125, I guess.
Yeah, maybe they'll let that Will Zalatoris guy become a card-carrying member of the PGA Tour.
Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting about him is he could go along and be like they said, well, what happens if he's good enough to be a pick for the Ryder Cup and he's not a PGA Tour member?
That could happen.
But I don't know what's required to be a PGA Tour member because he won $1.3 million last week. So he's already got a card almost by money earnings.
It's
now,
weird because of the pandemic, they combined the Corn Ferry season, so they didn't have any graduates from last year.
Oh, okay.
So it's just it's a one-off thing.
Okay, because I'm going to bet you he's on the Ryder Cup. That's just me talking. So I hope he is. Anyways, he's a fun kid. I loved hearing him interview. He goes, he just kind of said, "Well, what are you doing out here?" And he goes, "Hell, I'm just having fun. You know, I'm not out here to do anything. So win a tournament."
Yeah, the
Well,
Americans.
You got anything else you want to put out there?
No, that's really. I'm excited to get up to Gastonia this summer. Check out some Atlantic League bee hunting baseball.
For you folks out there, Gastonia is a suburb of Charlotte, North Carolina, and its claim to fame is it's got a few claims to fame. It's the home of Leonard. Golly, I just blanked. The head coach of the Florida State Seminole basketball team.
Oh, Leonard Hamilton?
Yeah, Leonard Hamilton's from there. Of course. Thrown away to Worthy. James Worthy of LA Laker fame and North Carolina fame is from there. And now the newest member of that group is Harold Varner III. So Gastonia is it's got a few of those famous athletes coming out of there. So
I think it's a brand new baseball park. So I mean, and you know, minor league always has cheap beer, so I'm in.
Well, yeah, they have better venues. I like all the AAA ballparks: Buffalo, Indianapolis, Columbus, Charlotte. You know, the AAA parks are, they're pretty cool. Well, I got a quote for you. You want to hear my quote?
Of course.
Okay. So Pete Dye, he designed this course behind me. And if you ever go there, folks, if you want to practice, just take your driver and go out in the Holiday Inn hallway and try to hit it from one end of the hall to the other and not hit the sides of the walls. If you can do that, you can play Harbortown. If not, grab a beer, sit by that lighthouse, and don't go near the place because you got no chance in hell. It's sand, water, and palm trees and alligators.
But not a lot of wind, which is surprising.
Oh, yeah, you bring the wind in. And that's the difference between having a late morning and a morning late tee time because, you get out in the morning and it looks like it does behind me. You get out there at 3 to 5 o'clock and the wind blows. It's just that way it works at the ocean, and it's right on Calabogie Sound. Well, here's the quote. Pete Dye says, "The ardent golfer would play Mount Everest if somebody just put a flagstick on top. Life is not fair, so why should I make a course that is fair? Golf is not a fair game, so why build a fair course?" Pete Dye.
Makes sense to me.
Well, if you've ever been to a Pete Dye course, they're torture. They're fun to look at, and you look at the tournament players course on TV and you get it. I mean, look at those guys when they come around to that 17th hole and their legs shake. It's just, and they're professionals, so it's fun to see. Whatever. Well, Billy, it's been another great day with picking and putting. I'll look forward to seeing you next week. We've got some new guests coming up in the future. We got Gary Soba, the manager of the Wells Fargo tournament, will be coming up in a week or two before that tournament. And we got Sully coming up in May. Sully, Bomber Clubs. So we'll look forward to seeing those people. Look forward to having you back next week. We're on all the platforms. You can hear us on Spotify, Apple, whatever, YouTube if you want to watch us, if you can stand to see us. And we'll look forward to seeing you back next week. See you later, Billy.
Bye.
Bye.